ويعلمكم ما لم تكونوا تعلمون فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. Before we get into today's verse, uh, we had seen yesterday the verses relating till yesterday we had seen verses relating to the change of the direction of the Qibla. A long discussion must have come to an end yesterday about why it was changed, what should the attitude of the people be. And let us look at this ayah, see how it starts. Kema arsalna fikum rasulan. As we sent among you a messenger. The word kema means as, just as, like. It is used for comparison. So this verse is compared to the previous verse. The previous verse was about the changing of the direction of the Qibla. So Allah says the changing of the Qibla was a favor to you. Similarly, the list of favors that I have sent to you is continuing now. And how does that happen? Now, before we go into this ayah, verse number 129 of Surah Baqarah also has a very similar ayah, ayah extremely similar to the one that we will be seeing now. Let us look at this ayah first. Kema arsalna fikum rasulan. Since as we have sent in you a messenger, minkum, from you, one among you. Yatlu alaykum ayatina, who recites to you our verses. What does this prophet do? He recites the verses to you. Wa yuzakkikum, number 2, he purifies you. Wa yu'allimukum, number 3, he teaches you. What does he teach you? Al-kitaba wal-hikmah, the book and the wisdom. And وَيُعَلِّمُكُمْ مَا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ, and he teaches you what not you know. So there are 4 favors that Allah has mentioned here. Now we will look at the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam pray for? He asked, he begged Allah. There was a passionate dua from him. And he told Allah, oh Allah, send from my people a messenger who will raise in them a messenger who will recite to them the verses, who will purify them, and he will teach them and will instruct them concerning your message. So raise among my people that kind of messenger, one who will complete your message to mankind. So as an answer to Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua, we see this verse coming as well. So that mission, that the demand that Ibrahim alayhi salam placed, the prayer that he placed in front of Allah has been completed and has been fulfilled. And that is what we see in this verse. So the first fulfillment was the completion, changing of the Qibla. Now from this we also know that Islam did not come in vacuum. The people in Makkah did not accept Islam out of the blue. Islam has always been there. It has firm roots in history. And we can clearly see that it is an answer to Ibrahim al-Islam's prophet. From the first man, Islam has been there. And all of them have taught Islam. And now it is the completion of the message, the completion, conclusion of revelation from God to man through Wahi. That has come to an end now with the coming down of our final messenger. So the change of the Qibla was not haphazard, but it was an answer to Ibrahim alayhi salam's prayer, as is this verse that we will be seeing now. So, and what are the first favor we have seen in the last verse, and continues now the list of favors. As we sent among you a messenger. This is the second favor. Now, the coming down of a messenger from Allah to a particular community is no ordinary thing. Allah sends down the guidance to people through this messenger. And what can be greater than receiving guidance? When Allah Himself sends the message directly to people, when Allah Himself sends a way of life, a proper way of life, a complete guidance to mankind, what can be more important and what can be a better favor? And He sends to and Allah says that He is one of your own people. And this revelation began with Adam alayhi salam, and now it has come to a conclusion. So now this coming down of the message, brings about a distinct, gives a distinctive character and a special privilege to the Muslims. Why? It is with them that the final message of, with us, that the final message of Allah rests. The Makkans at that time were humble group, a very insignificant group. But Allah addresses them and specially and says, I have sent among you, fikum. This is in the second person. Fikum, I have raised from you a messenger. And we are the fulfillment of Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua. We have received, we are the recipients of the message of the for our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you notice in verse 129, in Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua, all his pleas to Allah will be in the third person. Raise in them, bring them, teach them, instruct them. It will be in the third person. But here, if we observe this ayah, Allah says, I have raised among you a messenger from you who recites to you, alaykum, to you, our verses, وَيُزَكِّيكُمْ, and he purifies you, وَيُعَلِّمُكُمْ, and he teaches you the book and his wisdom. So everything is in second person. When Allah uses the word you, kum, he addresses us directly. And isn't this a huge honor, a privilege that we have received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the first favor is the coming down of the Prophet. And the next favor, what does the Prophet do? Yatlu alaykum ayatina. This is quite a simple part of part of the verse that could be easily understood. So he recites the ayahs to you, that is, he conveys the message of Allah to us directly. And what does this lead to? وَيُزَكِّيكُمْ, and he purifies you. Now, this purification is no ordinary term. This purification is a logical progression of the instructions that are given to us. He recites to you the verses. So when the verses are recited to you, it is expected that you purify yourself, or it purifies you. This purification itself is diverse. It is the purification of the mind and the purification of the heart. How does this work? How does the message of Allah purify us? It purifies our character, our lusts, our mannerisms. It should free us from jealousy, hatred, anger, and all kinds of vices that are there around us, selfishness, all the vices of our heart. It should be freed from it. It should be cleansed of it. These characteristics, though not tangible, can consume a person completely. So all this has to be removed. It should purify our thoughts. What do we think about? What do we love? What do we aspire? All those thoughts have to be purified as well. And this happens through the remembrance of the Quran. And it purifies you, meaning it also cleanses you of all kinds of misconceptions and corruption and ignorance. And people at that time, it was revealed to Makkah, they were consumed with interest and cheating and looting and injustice, and it is happening now also. It is not exclusive to any community, it is happening now as well. So it should remove all those negative aspects from you in your character, and it should purify the individual, and it should purify the society as well. All the ills that contaminate a community should be removed. This should be the impact of the message of Allah to us. That is the reason why it has been said. That was the dua of the Ibrahim alayhi salam. Send down a prophet with a message that will purify the people. And now Allah says, I have completed that mission. I have fulfilled his dua. I have sent down a prophet with a message strong enough to purify man. And through the Quran, as we are learning it now, the Quran has the power to give tranquility to our hearts, to cleanse us. It is in the remembrance of the words of Allah, in the remembrance of Allah, that mind al-qulub, do our hearts find rest. So that is the first kind of purification, that is the purification of the heart. Next comes the purification of the mind. This is intellectual purity, through understanding. So man should have a clear idea of his purpose of life, why he has come down, the concept of God, good and evil, where is he going to? All he should have a proper understanding of the deen. So to remove all kinds of misunderstandings and misconceptions and conjectures, Allah sends down the Quran, which purifies your mind, which gives you intellectual purity. It gives you the clear ideology, the purity of the heart. So when one is ready to implement the laws, and if a person understanding is clear, then he will be able to appreciate the laws that Allah sends down. For example, in the first 13 years when the Prophet lived in Makkah, all that was done to man was his conviction and his belief were strengthened. Allah did not send down much laws while in Makkah. So all 13 years, a person's belief was made stronger. And once they migrated to Medina, then came down the prohibition of alcohol, the commandments of the hijab. So at that time, the people were ready to take in any laws that could come down. Because why? Because they were already purified. They were ready to take in the laws of Allah because they had appreciation for it. And this is the attitude we need to adopt while teaching our children or while educating the people as well. For example, when there are children, kids, or youth at home, they are not taught much about the foundation of Islam, to the reason, the purpose of life, and all the fundamentals are not taught to them well. Only the halal and haram is pushed down their throat. So they do not have any proper understanding of the deen. And when the parents turn away, they do whatever they please. To them, it's just a formality. It is quite hollow. The foundation is very weak. It is only from a tree which has good roots, a healthy, a strong tree will come out, isn't it? So unless a person is purified and taught well, then his applying the laws will become, if not, the applying of laws will become difficult. So now we see Allah has sent down a messenger to you who recites the verses to you, and then those verses purify you, and then he teaches you the book and the wisdom. So when you are ready to take in that message, Allah sends down the laws and the wisdom. And what were the laws that were sent down? All were sent down through the Quran. We know that the Prophet was a living example of the Quran. When Aisha radiallahu anha was asked how was the Prophet's life, she simply answered, haven't you read the Quran? He was a walking Quran. So through the Quran and through the life of the Prophet, through the Quran and the Hadith, we learn a lot. And that is how Allah teaches the book to us. In modern terms, the Quran is theory and the Prophet's life was practical application of the Quran. So the Quran itself is an intellectual and a spiritual cleanser. It clears you, as I told you, it purifies your heart and it purifies your mind and teaches you the book and the wisdom. The book can be literally translated into the laws or the instructions of God. All that when a man is ready to receive it, Allah's the message enters his heart and he changes his life. And then it is followed up by the wisdom. What is the wisdom here? When a person accepts the message, the commands, the laws of God with full conviction, then he has attained wisdom. If he is going to do something because people tell him to do so, then that is not hikmah. That is just gaining of knowledge. A person might have a lot of knowledge, just because a person recites verses and knows a lot of hadith, he is not a person with hikmah. Only when a person applies it practically, with full conviction, to the best of his ability, then that is a high degree that a person has achieved. And that is the climax of an intellectual person. And it is not that knowledge alone is not enough. So when a person has a direct relationship with the Quran and he takes in the message of Allah, and Allah as a appreciation, he gives him the wisdom and the hikmah, and he opens up his heart to the message of God that he's able to take it in. So when this hikmah enters a person, it is easy to implement Islam in our lives. Man does not think of it as a liability, but rather as an asset. He thinks that if I follow the words of Allah, if I do according, it will only give me peace, it will give me happiness, it will give me tranquility. I will be fulfilling the purpose of my life, and there will be rewards for me in the akhirah as well. So this kind of understanding, when it enters man, then he has truly achieved success. Now it is because of this attitude that we see that the Arabs, who were a heedless community, a racist community, there was slavery and several crimes in that community, they were cleansed because of this benevolent book, this book of guidance which came down from Allah to our messenger. So a community which was thriving from an uncultured tribal desert, transformed into a community which would uphold justice and could promote and preserve humanity. What an exceptional change! That too, all within 23 years. When it takes hundreds of years to change a community now, as we see, yet these people, Allah with His message and through the Prophet, could change such a community and purify them and cleanse them. And they became the pioneers. They were the ones who were spreading the message of Islam, of peace to the entire world. So this was the uh, benefit that came out, and he teaches you what not you were knowing. So several things will be, how would we have had a clear concept of Allah, the Akhirah, the angels, the book, and the future, the punishments and the rewards, if not Allah had taught us, if not Allah had given us the purpose of our lives and how we are to live this life, what is the reason for good and bad? Why does distress fall upon a man? Or if a person continues to do good but he goes through a lot of hardships, what is the reason for that? If not, there is a lot of hikmah and wisdom in the Quran. If not Allah had taught all these things to us, would we ever know? No, we would not know. From where is all this going to come from? So Allah says, and He teaches you what not you were knowing. So these are the favors that we have seen in this verse. First favor is the sending down of the messenger. Who, second favor, He recites the verses to you, that is, He conveys the message. The third favor, it purifies you. And then in fourth is He teaches you the book and the wisdom. And finally, what not you know, all those information is also transferred on to you. And then Allah says, Fadkuruni adkurkum. So remember me, I will remember you, and be grateful to me. Wala takfurun, and not you be ungrateful to me. This is a very poignant verse. When someone does a favor to us, it is easy to be remember them, we appreciate them. It is indecent if we forget a favor, isn't it? If someone has helped us in a time of need, it is not acceptable that we forget the favor. Now Allah says, I have done all these favors to you, from the changing of the Qibla to all that we saw, a list of favors that we saw in the previous ayah. So be grateful to me. He does not talk about creating us, about the rizq that He has provided. He only talks about the sending down of the messenger. See, now when we come up and look at the verse, the first part of the verse here, Fadkuruni adkurkum. Remember me, I will remember you. We see a lot of prominent people, actors and artists and singers and politicians and heads of state. We talk about them, but do they talk about us? They do not even know that we exist. Excuse me. They do not even know that we exist. They don't care about us. They don't think about us. This is just simply too many of us. But Allah the Almighty says, remember me and I will remember you. It is as though He places us, we and Him are on the same pedestal. How is that even possible? He is the Almighty and we are ordinary slaves. We are trillions and trillions of human beings. And yet He says, you remember me and I will remember you. So what benevolence, what compassion, what a huge honor that Allah has given us. That He says, you remember me, I will remember. We cannot expect this from human beings at all. But it is like, for example, if a child in a school, the principal mentions the child's name, how does the child feel? The child is on cloud nine. Oh, the principal has spoken about me. She has talked about me. She has mentioned me. She has called me to the stage. Child is literally floating. And this is just an ordinary principle. Allah the Almighty says, remember me and I will remember you. So such a huge grace and generosity that Allah has favored upon us. The Prophet said that Allah says, if you remember me, I will remember you. Allah said, if you mention me in a gathering, I will mention you in a gathering. If we go to Allah by a hand's length, Allah comes to us by a forearm's length. And if we go by a forearm's length, Allah comes to us by an arm's length. And if we go walking, Allah comes to us running. So He is waiting for us, even though He is the greatest and there is no one like Him. Yet He waits for us to turn to Him. And so Allah says, be grateful to me because of all the favors. Be grateful to me. And notice this ayah, be grateful to me and not you be ungrateful to me. In that same stretch, be grateful and not you be ungrateful. Why is it that both are mentioned side by side? And Alim said, I cannot thank enough Allah because of the favor that He has rendered me. Thanking Allah itself is such a huge favor. I cannot thank Him enough for that. He has given me an opportunity to thank Him. He has made me recognize Him. He has given me the hidayah. He has made given me the opportunity to know Him, to know about His greatness, and to thank Him. How many people do not have access to this? And how often do we take this for granted? So Allah says, so if you remember me and I will for all the favors that Allah has given, and there is a warning here, be grateful to me and don't you dare be ungrateful to me. Why are both mentioned in the same stretch? Because it is possible for man to be grateful to God in one matter and to be grateful to Him in another matter. So often we forget the things that Allah has given us and we complain about what we do not have. The list of haves will be a lot. What we do not have will only be little. Yet we try to focus, we spend our energy looking at what we do not have. And there are so many other aspects in our lives. We contemplate more, we sit more and think more about what we do not have. That Allah says that do not think about that, but think about what you have and always be grateful to. Kufr can mean a lot of things. It could mean to deny, as in to reject Allah, but here it means ungrateful. Being ungrateful to Allah, not appreciating Him for the favors that He has offered to us, is also classified as kufr. And then we come to the final ayah of the day. Allah says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. O, o those who have believed, seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with the patient ones. Now, as we look at these ayahs, we have already seen this ayah before. It spoke about patience and prayer on a personal level there. And now, in this context, it comes more as a collective level. It is addressed to the group of Muslims. Muslims are now being vested the power, vested with the leadership of the world. They have the divine book in their hands. It is a historic and a universal the role of spreading the message of Allah to the entire world. It is a leadership and it is a huge responsibility. So this is not going to be a better process. For those who believe, conveying the word of Allah is not going to be easy. You will be subjected to all kinds of afflictions and trials and tribulations, as we see now, isn't it? When we speak up for the faith, a man is put to death. Simply for believing, a man is put to death. When we stand up for justice, people are killed. There are genocides, there are massacres, there are riots, simply for being Muslim. And if just to proclaim your faith, if a person has to face so much, what about the people who go around to do dawah? They face a lot more too. So this is no ordinary job. Even though I know we might feel that we are a privileged group who have received the message. This privilege does not come easily. It comes with a great responsibility as well. To be happy is good, but we need to understand the responsibility that has been given to place to us also. So to do this, to fulfill this huge responsibility, or those who have believed, seek help in Allah through patience and prayer, through sabr and through salah. Patience is a combination of moral virtues. It is not just, it means steadfastness, holding on to the deen, and having a lot of fortitude. It is an intensive word. But this sabr is indispensable to success. You will face a lot. You will face loss of life, poverty, famine, and a lot of insecurity, hostility. The people who are hostile to Islam will be thriving and they will have a lot of success, and you will feel that victory is very far away from you. It is a tough going. Falsehood will be strong. Now we see, when we see the Israel and Palestine conflict, everyone knows that where truth lies. But yet the power lies in the hand of the disbelievers. The power lies in the hand of falsehood. So help will be delayed. They are fighting for 75 years now. It looks endless. The help will be delayed and you will face a lot of cruel leaders, and at all these times you need patience. And how will you acquire this patience, this sabr? Through prayer. Allah strengthens you through salah, because salah is a direct conversation between man and Allah. Man places his concern in front of Allah and he turns to Him in prayer. He asks Him for help, and then Allah replies him and to him a strengthening of the inner self. That is the most important. Sometimes and very often the battle is in the mind. And people think that I will face this problem with strength, I will face it with fortitude, I will stand up for the truth against injustice. When this conviction comes, when a person goes in that direction, then Allah strengthens him from within. So at times of despair, the prayer is an inexhaustible source for all of us. For the, we are ordinary people, we are frail people, we are weak people, we are mere mortals who live in this dunya for a short span of time. But to face and to fulfill this huge mission which Allah has sent to us, that is to assume the to acquire the leadership of the world and to convey the message of Allah, and on a personal level as well, we need to combine these two important qualities. That is, these are the prerequisites of any person to go through a difficulty: patience and prayer, sabr and salah. And this is the essence of Islamic life as well. It is the worship. Worship is the essence of Islamic life because it fills us with confidence, it gives us the power, the tranquility, and the an inner peace which helps us get through. No person's life is free of difficulty or trials and tribulations. The degrees might differ. Some persons' difficulties might be very high, some moderate, and some ordinary difficulties. But everyone goes through difficulties, and whatever we face seems very huge to us. So at this times, we need to adopt these two qualities inside us. A prophet, whenever he was beset with trials and he felt down, and he would call to Bilal radiallahu anhu and says, call for prayer, O Bilal, bring us its comfort, give us the comfort of prayer. So it is a reassurance from God, reassurance from Allah that through patience and prayer, I will give you my help and my comfort. And it's beautiful, it is beautiful, the condition of a believer. The Prophet said, amazing is the quality of the believer. When he faces a hardship, then he is patient for it. When something good comes to him, when something bountiful comes to him, he is grateful for it. So both are good for him. So it's irrespective of whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, a hardship or a bounty, a favor or a difficulty, the attitude of the believer is that he always turns to Allah. He's either grateful to Allah and he thanks Him for it, or he accepts. That acceptance is primary. He accepts the trials that comes down from Allah and he's patient with it. Sabr does not mean that you are inactive. Sabr means you accept Allah's decree and you try to come out of it through perseverance. Patience and perseverance together means sabr. So when man adopts this attitude, and this is the right attitude for a Muslim, then life becomes a lot easier. And Allah, what does Allah promise here? Verily, indeed, inna Allah ma'as sabirin. I am with you. I will not let you go. I will not leave you destitute. I have not just randomly thrown a trial or a tribulation, or nothing is haphazard, nothing is arbitrary here. You have been given this trial and test to prove your character, to see how you act in the face of a trial, a problem, an affliction. And we need to remember this and hold on to it in our personal lives and in our collective lives as well. So may Allah guide us all in the straight path, and He purify our hearts. That is the reason that the Quran had come down to us. May He purify our hearts. May the Quran, as we enter the month of Ramadan and we spend a lot of time reciting the Quran, may this Quran, Ramadan is special because it was the month in which the Quran was revealed to us. And what can be a better favor than the coming down of the message, the guidance from Allah to mankind? So this month has been is celebrated, and we give thanks to Allah by fasting in this blessed month. And through in this month, may He illuminate our hearts and our minds. May He purify us. May He help us keep away from all that is evil and to hold on to all that He has taught us. May He make us conscious of the negatives in us, conscious of the negatives in us, and let us make a conscious effort to move away from it. And He guide us and strengthen us as we move away from the uh, ills that afflict us onto a more positive life filled with His guidance. May He fill us with the conviction that this is the true message of God and I will live by it. And if I hold on to it, there will be peace and tranquility in my heart. And once that belief sits strong in our heart, then it is very difficult for the shaitan to trouble us in any way. So may Allah bless us all with that guidance and keep us on the straight path. You can now put in send forth your questions now. Before we move into the questions, I would like to inform you about the change in the timings during the Ramadan. As we begin Ramadan this weekend, inshallah, class timings will be from 10 to 10:45 in the morning. 10 to 10:45 a.m. in the morning. And please attend the classes regularly. This is a way of understanding the Quran, learning the Quran. As I told you, this is the month of the Quran. So may Allah bring us closer to the Quran, and it is through this message that may He help us reform our lives. So we will make this as an opportunity and make an effort to attend this class, to attend the classes during Ramadan as well. Every good deed done in Ramadan has multiple rewards. So we let us strive for it and let us keep up regularity in our classes. And also, the last 10 days of Ramadan will be off. We will not have classes in the last 10 days of Ramadan and 4 to 5 days after Eid, inshallah. After that, we will be having a test. It is a voluntary test, a revision test of what we have learned so far. So we request you to go through the videos on YouTube, to listen to them, to take notes, and to learn. The question answers will be simple, not a very heavy test. But please do go through the ayahs. It will be a good recap for you. And once we recollect and revise it, it will stay fresh in our memory as well. So a completion of the classes that we have done so far will be the test. So please do go use the time during Ramadan to prepare well for the test as well. So inshallah, from Monday onwards, the classes will be from 10 to 10:45